Hello everyone. It's a privilege to be here today at the ETCIO Digital Conclave powered by Google. When we look at today's topic of modernizing IT in a cloud-first world, I think several issues crop up and we need to look at it from a technology lens, we need to look at it from a process lens, maybe also from the human lens. So today I will talk about effective change management strategies when you are looking at modernizing IT in a cloud-first world. Now, when we look at cloud, the first thing which comes to our mind is a digital transformation. And we are using cloud to transform the way we work, how we are using technology, how we are using cloud to become more digitally enabled, how we are being more customer-led, how we are being more efficient, and of course, how we are being more safe. So when we look at digital transformation, and that's quite the buzzword nowadays, it's about combining strategy and operations with technology, with innovation, with analytics, and all these are designed to rapidly come together so that we can enhance productivity and add value across the entire value chain. And with that, what we have then again coming in would be new business models, new commercial models, and how we would look at those in a cloud-first world. Now, when we look at cloud and we think of digital, one of the key things or themes that we as PwC have found is that digital is not just about emerging technologies, of which cloud would be one technology, right? Digital is also about bringing the strategy, the technology, the operations, the people, and the security all together in one seamless fashion. It's a way of solving problems for sure, but it is also about creating unique experiences, and it is also about accelerating business performance. Now, if we think of a manufacturing organization, what we have seen is, look at the ways in which the manufacturers are creating value with digital transformation. And of course, all of that is powered by cloud. It is a cloud-first model. Firstly, they are becoming far more customer-facing. You have connected products, you have associated services, solutions, you have asset optimization. Now, if you think of connected products, the moment you think of a connected ecosystem, you are also looking at a huge amount of data getting generated. And that data needs to be stored, it needs to be analyzed, and you need to make sense and intelligence out of that data. Of course, this would have been a very, very difficult and a very, very expensive proposition if you didn't have cloud to help you out. So when you look at new revenue and growth opportunities, when you're looking at doing a digital transformation around customer stickiness, cloud becomes your platform of choice. Now, if you're running that data analytics, if you're running statistical modeling on that data, if you're running different algorithms on that data, you need that data to reside probably in a data lake. And again, when you think of a data lake and you think of data lake where the lake is being filled up by multiple data sources from different connected products, you can't do that without a cloud ecosystem. Now you look at their core operations. We have been hearing about smart factory. It's a reality today. You have a connected supply chain so that you have a just-in-time supply chain, even in a country like India. You have a digitized product development models and of course field services. All of these would need a cloud backbone. If you are looking at a smart factory where your ERP systems are connected to your operational systems and you have the entire IT/OT integration done. If you look at a connected supply chain where your suppliers are continuously sending you updates around how the supply chain is working, a lot of the product development today is being done on cloud models, on platforms which allow you to quickly try, fail fast, and then move on to new ideas. Product development has become far more accessible and far more available to different companies with far lesser amount of investments, because you can use the cloud platform on which you can do the product design, you can do the innovation design, you can have innovation programs running for your organization or your design teams, and they can quickly fail and move forward. If you look at field services, if you have manufacturing organization and then probably beyond that, you have the sales force, you have the services force. So the sales and service would need to be connected not just to your manufacturing facility, but also to your warehouses, also to your assets. And as you look at that, again in that connected ecosystem where you're trying to optimize cost, where you're trying to generate customer delight, cloud platform becomes the platform of choice. And then of course you have the supporting operations like the back office finance. You would like to have significant amount of analytics powering your back office operations. You would look at new ways of working. Now all these need a platform, and it becomes a way to work together, partnering with new ventures. How do you get the new startup ecosystem into your organization? How do you have your entire IT architecture being looked at in a new model? How do you look at data in a different way? All these would need a cloud-first environment. And hence, when you look at modernizing your IT for the entire operations, for the entire back office, for the entire customer-facing piece, cloud-first becomes a critical part. The moment you think of that, now you need to think, okay, that's the technology backbone, what else? With that, I would like to introduce the new philosophy that we are now working with, where we see what drives a transformation and what drives the performance of the transformation, or what drives the success of the transformation. It's not just the technology part, but it's also the business and the experience which you have to bring together. So this is the BXT model which we have been working on in PwC for some time, which essentially brings in three components: business, experience, and technology. Now we have been talking about technology and how the cloud ecosystem can help the technology to become far more accessible, far more available, far more affordable for our clients. But what you have to also understand is that when I'm trying to modernize the IT, I'm doing it not just for the sake of IT, I'm doing it for the sake of business. Now, a large part of that would be around how do I look at critical business processes and develop them, improve them, optimize them, look at new ways of working, which would probably mean some processes will need to be retired, some new processes will come in. And how do I give a better experience to all my stakeholders across the ecosystem as I do that? Which brings in the concept of, okay, you have business on one side, which requires some changes, which requires a transformation. You have technology on the other side, which can enable that change. But how do you bring that change to deliver results? And what we have seen is, if you can look at this in the lens of giving a better experience to your stakeholders could be your employees, your stakeholders could be your customers, your stakeholders could be your vendors, your stakeholders could be the regulators, your stakeholders could be the market. Now, as you work with all these stakeholders, how you bring in that right experience for them defines the success of the transformation. So that's where we come with our experience on the importance of human experiences and how we work at the intersection. So it's a fluid approach. It's not about one versus the other. It's about getting all of them into the same bucket and then looking at it in a very fluid way. So let me explain to you what we mean by this. The way we have seen this, that each of these ideas are fragmented viewpoints and none of them tell you the whole story. So this approach allows you to innovate. Of course, you would do the innovation over a cloud platform, but it also allows you to improve business performance, adopt a digital platform, effectively manage risks, and also extract optimum value from these transactions or investments with a continued focus on growth. When we did our CEO surveys, what we found was that compared to the Western world, the CEOs in India are far more bullish about growth, and hence in this part of the world, it is the continued focus on growth which needs to be kept in mind. It's not only about managing risks, it is not about cutting costs, it is not about tightening your ship, it's about finding new ways of growing. And as you find new ways of growing, the experience, the customer, the delight, these become far more important. And all of these tie back in some way to the BXT model, to the experience. So what we did was, how do you look at experience and look at it differently when you're looking at a IT project? And I have been an IT professional all my life. Last 20 years I have been doing this. We've never thought of getting creative teams, design thinking teams, user experience teams at the forefront of defining the process, defining the experience, defining the way things would move, defining the journey maps, defining the experience maps. But that's what is telling very clearly to be the need of the hour. And when we look at that, we are finding that if you don't do all that, then you're left with only a technology solution which meets probably some business needs, but it doesn't give you the holistic transformation which the organization is hoping for. Now, as we do this, of course, what would become very important is, how do you manage this change? And how do you manage the change with the advent of cloud as a platform? So of course, when you look at cloud as a platform, and maybe for this slide I'll go back a bit into how we are doing the IT modernization over a cloud framework, you would look at your current IT portfolio, right? Before beginning any cloud migration, you would look at the current portfolio, you would look at what's the future architecture going to look like, what's the future platform. You would look at a transformation approach. You would try and involve the different stakeholders. The stakeholders are not just your IT teams. The stakeholders are the business teams for whom you've built these applications. You would try and articulate specific goals, not just IT goals, again business goals. What kind of business goals would tell you that this IT modernization has been successful? You would need to also secure buy-in. This is a very critical component of a modernization approach. When you're looking at modernization, of course, you are bringing in some amount of disruption. People are generally not happy about disruption. They would generally, tendency would be to resist. It would be to, push back. And hence securing buy-in at different levels, not just at the senior level, but also at the level where the rubber meets the road, at that ground level. That buy-in would be critical for your IT modernization to be successful. And then of course you have to adopt new KPIs. Now as you go through the business transformation approach, one of the critical parts which every CEO would tell you is, what's the final business benefit that you're going to deliver using this transformation? So you would look at new KPIs, you would look at measuring them differently, rewarding your staff differently, rewarding your business differently. And also along with all that, you would try and bring in a lot of automation. Now, if you look at all the other technologies which are, emerging or has emerged today in the Indian context, it's not just cloud. Cloud is one of the technology platforms, right? Or one of the pillars which you would look at for modernizing your IT. You would look at things like cloud applications, robotics, process automations, looking at machine learning, looking at artificial intelligence, looking at 3D printing, looking at drones. Now all of these would create an ecosystem and all of them form integral parts of modernizing your IT. So your IT is not just about saying, okay, I have a SAP system, let me just upgrade it, and now I've modernized my IT application. It's about saying that, okay, can I look at a cloud applications, which could be Workday, which could be Salesforce, which could be Hybris, and can I get those in to work in a different way? It would also mean that, can I look at analytics in a completely different way? Can I look at analytics to also work along with artificial intelligence, and it becomes not just a decision support system, but also a system which will give me new intelligence around what I have been doing. Now, also, when you look at all this, by adopting cloud computing as a starting point, okay, you would have the ability to do all of that. Build scale, be more agile, be more flexible, work with multiple different technologies, and at the same time be efficient and save some costs for your organization. But that's only possible when you do all of these in terms of your current portfolio, the right transformation approach, the right design, the right architecture, articulating your goals, securing buy-in, addressing the change. So, what would a smart cloud foundation achieve for you? Now, when we look at that, one of the key things or key thoughts which came in our mind was, do you have a well-designed cloud foundation which can react quickly, in some cases automatically, and you have workload changes coming in. It could be because of some event, it could be because of certain activities which are being done within your organization, or even new applications which are just adding up. Do you have a standardized foundation which improves efficiency, which gives you reliability, which will help you save money relative to less flexible or less dynamic models or less dynamic infrastructures? One of the key things is, when you look at this flexible infrastructure, how do you encourage experimentation within your organization? How do you allow people to iterate? How do you look at leveraging the foundation to drive quick innovation and fail quickly and then move on? Do you have some way of weaving a charge back into your cloud foundation, where there are possibilities to claim back what you have not used? Is it easy to identify potential savings and then realize those? Now, all these are very fundamental to how you adopt cloud, how you look at the adoption framework, and how do you create the platform. But as I said, there would be challenges that are beyond the system, and I would like to say that at the heart of this change, or the heart of this change management, is what we think is design thinking. Because it's not just about what you get, it's also about what you say, what you think, what you feel, what you do. And there are motivational challenges which have to be handled. Now, in the traditional model, when we looked at change management, and we have been doing large transformations for clients over a significant number of years, the traditional change management process is around doing workshops, around securing buy-in, around asking the right questions. But we have been relatively undermining the importance of emotions in all of that. And today, what we feel is that design thinking allows you to look at that, allows you to look at the core motivation of a person, of an end user in using a system. And can we do something around that? Can we do something around the way he feels about the new system which is coming in? It has nothing to do with the parameters which have been maintained. It has nothing to do with the functionalities which have come in additionally. It has nothing to do with the training workshops which have happened n number of times. It is not about what's the support desk going to give him. It is about the way you make him feel about the new change. It's the way you think he's emotionally getting connected to the new change. And that design mindset is moving people, right? So what we are saying is, rather than having a process-centric view I'm not saying don't have it, but also have a human-centric view. Traditionally, we have been only process-centric and data-centric. We are saying add the human piece into it and let the human piece, as this slide shows, let the human piece be the driving force. Let the process and the data follow the human-centric mindset. And that will allow you to become far more successful in your change approach. What we have always strived to do with our customers is to come up with solutions that are meaningful and are memorable, right? So when we say people driven, what do we mean by people driven, right? Change management, it has to be people driven. It's about involving judgment, which can't always be substituted by algorithms. So on one side, we are saying that, new technology is bringing in artificial intelligence. On the other side, we are saying balance it out with judgment which can't be done by algorithms, judgment which can be done by emotions. There would be core processes to the organization which can't be changed. It would drive differentiation, but if I can give you a differentiated experience around the same core process, it can probably drive differentiation in the market vis-a-vis your competition. And then it would allow you to identify practices and standards which will allow you not only to innovate but be far more secure. Because if you think of today, one of the things which you continuously worry about and which keeps CEOs awake at night is, what's the protection side of my IT systems? Are my IT systems protected from cyber attacks? Are my IT systems protected from hackers trying to come in? Because if you are not protected, then that gives rise to a lot of other issues, and whatever you have tried to bring in terms of IT modernization, it can all go out in a snap of a finger if you have not protected your system. And a large part of this is around how do you play the human emotion with protection, right? Because what we tend to forget is, as I would try to make my systems more and more rigid, more and more tight, more and more secure, it will lead to the humans who are interacting with that system to be slightly cheesed off with that system. Because you try and do that and it'll ask you 10 different questions. It'll ask you to put in your passwords, it'll ask you to go into certain screens and do certain verifications. And that's needed. In today's world, you can't live without that. So what I'm saying is that as I build my cybersecurity framework around my IT architecture framework, the design thinking and the experience design allows it to be far less intrusive on the user, and the user experience can be far better. So I do the same, but I give a better experience. So what we're saying is that when you're going on these kind of a transformation journey and you're thinking of the change management around with that, the organization should follow a structured plan. And what do I mean by that? You should have discovery days, right? Which would be meeting with key leaders, key stakeholders, identifying their priorities, their top challenges. Then you should follow it up with an empathy study, which will essentially be an immersion workshop with some of these stakeholders, which will ask them to explain and empathize with the actual problems which they are facing. You would obviously have the next stage of analysis. You would have journey mappings in terms of looking at how do I capture specific experience hotspots, and how do I define the problems, define the opportunities, because a lot of it is around identifying new opportunities. The next stage would be co-creation in terms of ideation to find out solutions which could be game changing and solutions which can actually help you make it a far more modern workplace. And then of course recommendations around prioritizing. You can't do everything. Some of these are nice to have, some of these are must have. Some problems you can empathize and live with, some problems you can't if you're trying to modernize your workplace. So of course there is that entire process of kicking off, empathizing, defining, ideating, and then coming up with the right ideas. Now of course that will have to be modeled around a very robust change management framework. where you would look at the change readiness, you would look at training, knowledge transfer, which are very standardized, but it has to be done in a different way. And the human-centric approach would flow through all of that. Communication becomes extremely critical around how do you inform employees, how do you gain their support, how do you adopt that change, how do you make them adopt it themselves, and what is that compelling communication which will make them imbibe that change themselves. And then of course leadership alignment. We talked about securing their buy-in. It's not just securing the buy-in for the project, it is also about the alignment of leadership around how do you make that change stick. If leaders are going to use new technology, if leaders are going to say that yes, I would be using modern IT in a cloud-first world, people will follow that. If leaders say that okay, you have created that CEO dashboard, can I get a printout of that? Then people will not follow that, right? So it is about empowering leaders and stakeholders to live the experience and to say that, look at me, I have made the change, I want you to adopt the change as well. And then of course, at an organizational level, you would have to have a change management preparation. You would need a change team, you would need change champions, you would need to understand the people's, the risk, the inherent risk of some people leaving. How do I look at the program and how do I make formal plans around what to do with those people as we go on to the automation journey? A large part of IT modernization today is around automation. A large part of the IT modernization is around taking decision making away from people and pushing it into artificial systems. Now, if I do that, how do I make those people more productive and add more value to the organization by taking on new roles? How do I make them move up the value chain of decision making by saying that, okay, some of your decisions, some of your tasks, I will be able to automate. And beyond that, there would always be the human, which will, look at that, take the final decisions. Maybe the rudimentary routine calls can be taken by the system, but there would be the reason for the human to interact in far more complex situations, which will probably make them feel even more motivated about the work they are doing. So I think that's in a nutshell what would be the change management methodology or the focus. And then of course, as I said, to summarize, we would have 4 focus streams for an integrated process, people and technology experience. You would have the stakeholder engagement layer, you would have the comms or the communications layer, you would have the training layer, and you will have the change impact layer. And if you look at it, what we have done is we are saying, okay, for each of these, you will have to ask how, and you'll have to look at the deliverables. So the how would be around defining the communication scope, around stakeholder analysis, around developing engagement and communication plans, and then of course executing them, monitoring the engagement, updating the plans, identifying the success stories, talking to people around the success stories. What are the lessons learned? Can we improve? Even during a transformation, can we improve looking at the lessons learned? What are some of the training programs which have been designed? Can we look at the training materials very differently? Can we look at the execution in a completely different way? And I'll give you an example. We have always thought of, when you're looking at recruiting people, you call them for an interview, you ask them questions, you give them a problem, they solve the problem, and then you are happy about it, right? In today's world, it would be where people are being called in for but they're not being interviewed, they're being given a problem. There's nobody in the room apart from them. They're just given a problem and said, okay, can you create a solution for that? That's your interview, right? We've had really major auto companies like Volvo and Toyota now come up with solutions where they're taking interviews of engineers, but they're saying that okay, you don't have to talk to anybody. You come and sit within a car. You sit within a Volvo car, and the car will take you through its entire process. And in the process, we will understand how much you know about the car's engineering and whether you're good enough to be a Volvo engineer or not, right? So those kind of things will come in where you're not only looking at giving a differentiated experience to the interviewee, but you're also saying that the interviewer needs to be looking at it in a completely different way. And finally, that's the impact which you want to leave your customers with or leave your clients with. You look at the impact of change across these different groups of stakeholders and how you analyze them, and that analysis will be a combination of surveys, focus group workshops, final client feedbacks, final customer delight stories, and all of that. So that probably brings me to the end of this discourse. It's been a privilege, again, talking to all of you. Happy to talk to you more, offline, online. You can always reach out to me at arnab.basu@pwc.com, and we can take the conversations forward. Thank you.